Hello and welcome to Rich Kohut's Reasonable Rants. This is the next episode. I believe this is going to be episode number 4 if I'm continuing to do these in chronological order. Of course, it might just be fun to mix them up completely. I'll put episode 1 next, then episode 4 second, then 2, and then 3. Whatever the case may be. This episode, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind lately, and it's after watching a couple shows on the Twit network, This Week in Tech. Specifically, that has been talked about on the latest episode of This Week in Tech itself. Today is the 15th of March 2012, by the way, so the latest episode of Twit was for Sunday the 11th. They talk about this thing called the post-PC era. The post-PC era. What does that mean? Well, it's tough to define, but basically the definition of the post-PC era, as far as we can tell, is, when I say we can tell, I mean I can tell. Man, I've been doing Jugglers on Juggling for so long, I immediately say we, or, instead of, it's me. It's just freaking me. But the post-PC era is basically the notion that tablets and smartphones are going to replace personal computers. That's a hell of a statement. And yet, nobody seems to question that. At least nobody, on the Twit network does. None of the hosts seem to, even Brian Brushwood, he goes, yeah, this is, starting to become the post-PC era. Are any of these guys actual hardcore PC users? The thought hits my head. Or are they just, the techno geeks who just have to have the latest technology and are getting sucked into and drinking the Kool-Aid of what the marketers are putting out and everything? There's a couple big reasons and so many other reasons why the post-PC era will never happen. But let me just talk about two real quick. Just two. And it's actually tough for me to remember this because I already did this rant on the road when I was, driving someplace that took me a half hour along the turnpike, and I went, yeah, I'm ranting, and then I can't remember what I just said. Which is actually the rant that inspired me to do this, is because I went, you know what, I'm going to just freaking record my rants, because I love to rant so much, and especially if I'm in the car, and if I can mount my camera to my dashboard and just go ranting like I normally do in the car, that'd be wonderful. The post-PC era, though, is the first point about why the post-PC era will never happen is because of one simple word: customization. Customization is the notion of, as you'd imagine, making a software or a hardware thing your own. It is taking it and modifying it to suit your specific needs. And tablets and smartphones will never ever hold a candle to this. And for the notion of tablets and smartphones, I am going to generalize a little bit and use the iPhone and the iPad as my primary examples, just because Android is kind of better than them, but even so, it's still in the same area. Let me just go ahead on my computer right now to my control panel. And I'm running Windows 7, by the way. Which is, I was actually skeptical at first that this would be as great an operating system as it is, but it is a good operating system. And let me take a look at how many, damn, that's a lot of options here. And these are not options, by the way. These are simply categories. We have all these different categories, such as backup and restore. We have our gamma levels. We have our folder options. We have our display options. We have our flash player options. We have our fonts library. We have our phone and modem options. We have our mouse options. We have our system recovery options. We have our sound options, our system settings, our Windows Anytime Upgrade, apparently I don't remember installing that, but whatever. Windows Defender. We have region and languages, programs and features, personalization, keyboard settings. These are not individual settings. These are groups of settings. For example, I go and I click on display, And I have so many more options that pop up. Adjust resolution, adjust brightness, calibrate color, change display settings, which in of itself is another set of things. Immediately I open that up, and I've got 7, counting them, different settings that I can change in that one thing alone. Connect to a projector, adjust clear type text, set DPI resolution. All these different things under this one setting of display. Essentially, you have hundreds of thousands of customizations in the control panel alone that you can do on a Windows PC. It's mind-blowing. Just think about how you have customized your desktop PC. Just think, and don't even think about that. Think about how much you've customized your Firefox browser. Oh my fucking god. I could go to my Firefox. I couldn't even list well, okay, I can list the add-ons. They're listed for me right here. But I've got AdBlock Plus, Download Helper, Download Them All, Faviconize tab, Grease Monkey, which is another thing. I've got user scripts up the yin-yang. I've got about 24 user scripts there. I've got even more add-ons. I've got Reload Every, Retail Me Not, Session Manager, GeoMate Junior Upgrader. I've got a vast web apps. These are all the ways that I've just added onto Firefox, not to mention the Options tab here. I've got all my security settings set in Firefox, my syncing settings, my privacy settings, the applications that can connect to Firefox, the way it blocks pop-ups, the content tab. All these different things are levels upon levels upon levels of customization that can be done. Now take a look at your iPhone settings screen. Notice how I say it's a single screen. It is not a panel with a group of tabs which load into another setting page themselves. You have a single settings page on your iPad and iPhone, don't you? What can you do? You can change your desktop wallpaper. You can set how long it takes before the phone automatically locks or turns off, or if it locks or turns off after that amount of time. You can set a password. You can set you can set where the icons are on the screen. You could set what else? Yeah, 5 settings off the top of my head is what I can think of. That's just the display options inside of Windows. The degree of customization you have over tablets and smartphones is stupid. It's not smart at all, especially when it comes to like iPads and iPhones. You can't customize them at all. The only thing you can really do is change your wallpapers. That's it. And it's the thing that I hate about ideas such as app stores as well. The very notion that, hey, this is your program. You download it through this service, and this is what you can get. It is this. You cannot change it. You cannot do anything else with it. You have no control over it. It is this. You can either use it or just leave it be. That literally sent the chill down my spine, because you have zero control and zero options over what you can do. And that seems to be the direction that we're headed, is you have less options and less features? Really? And you're saying this is the future? This is the direction we want to go? You're insane. I thought the idea of the reason why we switched from DOS to Windows 3.1 to Windows 95 to Windows 98 to Windows 2000 to Windows XP to Windows Vista, well, I kind of forget about Vista, but then to Windows 7, was so that we have more options and more features and more compatibility and more. Not less. But it seems that less is the new more. Completely moronic. And anybody who actually cares about customization, which is, I believe, tons and tons of people, anybody who said, gee, I just wish I could change this one thing about my smartphone, and it doesn't have a setting for it, knows exactly what I'm talking about when I say, you have so much more control over a PC than you do over anything else. That's the first step. That's the first direction I go in this argument, that the post-PC era is crap. The second direction, I think this is, and that's the simple and easy to explain direction. The next direction I go is a rather simple direction to state, but really, really deep when you get ahead of it. And it's simply put, input. your input method. The first PCs were invented, let's not say the first PCs, because technically the first PCs were punch card inputs, and those very quickly went out of style as soon as the mouse was invented. The mouse and keyboard. Those were invented right alongside with the Apple computers and the first PCs. They basically worked beautifully. They were great. And they were basically invented in the late 70s, early 80s. It's currently 2012. This has lasted for 30 years. In the meantime, all of these other input methods have been introduced, and every single one has fallen in favor of the mouse and keyboard. We had, when people went, right, the mouse and keyboard is great, but let's try a trackball. Oh, that's no good. Let's try a joystick. Oh, no, that's no good. Let's try a touchpad. Oh, the touchpad works okay. Let's keep that as kind of a secondary one, when you don't have room for a mouse and keyboard, which, by the way, one of the things that I think laptops really need to do that manufacturers just haven't jumped on for whatever reason is the same way that when you have a DS, the stylus is inside the DS, you just slide it out and there's your stylus. Which was kind of stolen from Palm Pilots, by the way, but, everyone knows the DS nowadays instead of Palm saying the stylus was inside your Palm Pilot. That just shows my nerd cred. But basically, the same thing should be done with laptops and a mouse. Screw buying travel mice. Just have your laptop have a little slot in it that you pull out. Oh, there's a mini mouse. Screw the qualifications and processor speed of the laptop. I'd buy that laptop just for that one feature. As long as it can run something, that'd be well worth it. But basically, there were touchpads were invented. They fell by the wayside. Well, sort of. They're still around, but only because nobody has realized that, hey, we can put an insertable mouse and slide it out like a stylus. Then after that went by the wayside, we had nubbets that were invented, and they're still around. IBM laptops use them, sort of. I love the nubbet personally, but then again, that's me. Then we finally got around to the tablet PCs, which have been around for a long, long time. Remember the notebooks that were advertised as you flip them open like a notebook, then you swivel the screen around and fold it back, and suddenly it's a tablet. Hey, look at that. And I can control Windows by touching it. Yeah, and basically that was invented around 10 years ago. And it's kind of fallen by the wayside. It hasn't replaced a keyboard and mouse. Keyboard and mouse is still here after 30-something years. And, and people in the post that are claiming that we're in the post-PC era are claiming that this is what defeated it. Hello? This has been around for 10 years and it hasn't defeated it yet. I don't think it's going to defeat it anytime soon. Number one. Number two, to claim that people are going to not use PCs anymore for anything, they're only going to use their iPads and iPhones for things, is completely ludicrous. Anybody who's even remotely a power user or uses any sort of program that does anything sort of even reasonably heavy, anybody that uses, that does Flash movies, anybody that does anything in Photoshop like myself, I've got a degree in media arts, I know Photoshop is my bread and butter. Anybody who does video editing, and I'm talking to all you jugglers now as well, personally I do video editing, anybody who works in Word or is typing emails even, to claim that basic, or web browsing, especially web browsing, anybody who says to me that doing this is a good way to have enough fine, precise control as a mouse has in order to do either Photoshop work or video editing or word processing or surfing the internet on this is the equivalent of this, they're just high. There's no other way to explain it. They're high. They're smoking something really good, and I want a piece of it. Yeah. Basically, that's about as simple as I can put it. And as much of as strong of an argument as I can make, is I can just explain. Look, you're telling me that people are going to have, as with these programs and things that you can do on a PC that require really precise control, such as first-person shooter gaming. You're telling me that everybody who plays Call of Duty or Team Fortress 2 on the internet using a mouse and keyboard, and these are people that loathe controllers. They take things like this and this idea right here, and they despise it with a passion. This is not true FPS gaming. You must have a mouse and keyboard so that you can whip around quickly. There is no way you have as much control with this as you would with this. Yeah, that's not what they sound like, but that's basically the arguments that they are. And they're correct, completely correct. Mouse and keyboard is much more fine than a controller ever will be. It's the most precise thing we've ever invented as an input device. The only other thing that could possibly be more precise is, direct mental reading, which is, not going to happen anytime soon, as far as I can tell. Or eyeball tracking. And that'd have to be really precise in order to get it right. But yeah, you're saying that anybody that, that you're just high. I mean, there's just no way that any of these precisely controlled things will ever be able to be done with essentially gesture input, which is what it is. It's gesture input. You're just insane. You're just stupid. I mean, there's no way to explain it. Sure, for a casual user, for somebody who just wants to have either a toilet device or somebody who just wants to either surf the internet or just check their email or, anybody who's, what I'm talking about, the casual usage idea. The idea of, I have this device right here and I'm just doing whatever on it. I don't really even care that much about what I'm doing on it. I'm just doing something on it. Yes, it's great for that. And that's the reason why it's taken off, is because it is the best method for casual input that we've ever come up with. The simple idea that you can whip something out and then suddenly boop, 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 bunk, and there's what you wanted. That's exactly what it's for, and that's exactly why it's taken off. I don't need, I wish I had a touchscreen phone instead of the phone that I have, which has, buttons on it, which are very non-intuitive, very hard to control, to somebody who doesn't know how to use them, by the way. It is the perfect method for that, and that's the reason why you see people, and that's, again, it's the reason why you see iPads and iPhones taking off, and not, tablet PCs. It's two completely separate areas that these things are occupying. And to say that this one will replace that one, you're wrong. You're just wrong. At the very most, I predict that they will be a 50-50 split. That these will sell in the same amount of numbers and have the same amount of usage as this. That's it. Never anymore. This one will not outweigh the other one. Tablets and smartphones will never outweigh PCs. Ever. It's not possible. I would eat my hat, literally, if that ever happens. And it's never going to. I'm that confident. I'd even go so far as to say I would, kill myself if that happened. Any wild-eyed bet you want to make it to me, I'll take it. If you want to make other arguments though, saying that desktop computers, desktop towers are going to be replaced by laptops, I believe you. That's a reasonable argument because, I'm part of that. I'm proof of that. I have a laptop now. I don't use a desktop PC anymore. I use my laptop. Because it's just as powerful and it's more portable. It does exactly the same things, plus it has the added bonus of portability now. So yeah, that pretty much is a fine argument. But the argument that we're in the post-PC era, you're just freaking wrong. And there's no other way to put it. Thank you very much for watching Richard Kohut's Reasonable Rants. This has been episode number 4, and we'll see you in episode number 5, hopefully. Goodbye.